Beneventi omnes. This is a video for WriteLatin.org using the Lingua Latina per se illustrata textbook. Today in chapter 24 we're going to learn the Plu-Perfect tense. First we'll review the time and completeness and the perfect and imperfect. Then we'll cover its formation, its understanding, its expression. We'll practice a bit and then cover irregular verbs at the end. First you have to know what the symbolism means. The thumb towards you means I, you, he, she, or it, we, y'all, they. Okay, so in chapter 15 we learned that the two aspects of tense are time and completeness. And on completeness there are two types of completeness. There is first action, which is complete, which means that it happened at a distinct moment in time and that it is finished and done. And then there's also incomplete, which means that the action is ongoing and not necessarily finished. And so far, most of the tenses we've done have been this one, which is incomplete. And only one tense that we've had, namely the perfect, has been complete. But today we're going to get a second tense, which is complete. And so our second tense today is going to be the Plu-Perfect. Now, the perfect tense was past time and complete, and it could be in any of that area there. However, today the Plu-Perfect tense is also time past and also time complete. It's just going to be in a farther back area, even further back in time. Okay, so in the house of Latin, the Plu-Perfect is going to be this orange part on the far left, and you can see that it is technically relative to the imperfect, although in actual reality we're going to find that it's most often used with the perfect, even though it includes in its construction this ERA that we're going to see today. Alrighty, and its endings of course are MST, mustis, NT, very simple, normal. This tense will be much easier than the perfect was 3 chapters ago. Just as the perfect was relative to the present, so also the Plu-Perfect is relative to the imperfect, meaning that its ending is thought of as occurring at the moment when the imperfect action was occurring. So the Plu-Perfect tense is going to have a stem, which is the perfect stem plus this ERA. Now notice, it's not a est et imus istis erunt. That would mean that it was earlier than the present. But this is going to have an ERA, which means that it is earlier even than that, which means even further back in the past. All right, so the two parts of the Plu-Perfect. First is the perfect stem, which you're already used to from the perfect, kav, which is the third principal part minus its ending. And then the other thing the imperfect will have are these eram, eras, erat endings, which were the form of the verb to be in its imperfect tense. So you learned these as meaning I was being, you were being. Now though, we're going to append a prefix, namely the perfect stem, onto this right here. And so therefore it's going to have a more complex meaning. But today we're going to see that the perfect can occur anywhere here, and that it is almost always introduced by one of these 4 adverbs, because or although, which are kind of opposites, and then when and after. So because they had repaired it, therefore later on we used it. And you can switch these two things around without any trouble. You can say, we have used it right here because they had already repaired it. So it's nice and very nice and elegant the way the Plu-Perfect and perfect can just switch places at will. Or in the Latin, quia id refecerant, usi sumus, or usi sumus, quia id refecerant. So it's very nice and elegant. All right, you can use the Plu-Perfect also before an imperfect verb, as you will see here. Because they had repaired it, we were using it. Or we were using it because they had repaired it. And then in the Latin, quia id refecerant, utebamur, or utebamur, quia id refecerant. All right, so this word had or were having can be thought of as a combination of orange perfect and purple imperfect. For instance, you can think of it as while we were using it, they were in a state of having what? Having the situation repaired. See that? While we were using it, they over there were standing pretty because they had it under control, having it repaired all the way further back in the past. And so that is how had really has two ideas in it. A state of being in the imperfect that was ongoing, and then a perfect situation that's even further in the past. And we can see it in the Latin just as well. While we were ute bombering, they erant, they were, and they had already refaked it. Alrighty, so the pluperfect tense is then just like this. Wokawaram, wokawaras, wokawarat, wokawaramus, wokawaratis, wokawarant. And what do these parts mean? They mean action before the was being situation that we're reporting about now in the present. And the translation therefore was blanking and have blanked and call, which all combines to give had called. So as you say the parts of the word, imagine in your mind what each part means. The V means a hiatus or a break, an emptiness that separates the eram situation being described from the woka action that had occurred even further back in time. So it's a hiatus in time and reality between those two events, and it's also a separation in the sound of your voice, because when you say the w, you completely close your mouth and stop the sound for a brief moment. And so when you hear that cessation of sound, that should be a tip-off, a clue to you that the action spoken of was somewhere even farther back, farther back behind whatever follows it here. So, wokawaram. Action before the state of being that I'm now telling you about. That's what it all suggests abstractly. But then on a real translation level, it suggests having called, I was, or I was being, in a state of having called. So the pluperfect, or in Latin, plusquam-perfectum, more than perfect, even further completed than the perfect tense, is translated had blanked, and it is often used in time construction clauses introduced by an adverb such as although or since or when or after. These are called causal and these are called temporal for time. After we had bought the car, then we went on vacation. The action of Plu-Perfect, buying a car, occurs before, way back further in time than the action of going. So now we've had the present system with all its three tenses, and we've gotten two of the perfect system's tenses. And again, this perfect system derives from the perfect stem, wokaw, with a V on the end. All right, so then how do you express this? Well, you've already got a good idea. Remember, in the present system, the tenses had a hump, wokaba, wokabe, whereas in the perfect system, they had a curly Q or a dip, wokawi, wokawimus, or wokawaram, wokawaramus. And that dip suggests the nothingness separation between the reported event and the completed action that had occurred even further back before it. So the imperfect tense looks like this: dikebam, I was speaking, or eram, I was. But now the pluperfect prefixes onto the start of it a perfect stem to make it even further back in the past. I was having called, or I had called. I was having spoken. Dixaram. All right, recite it a first time. Wokawaram, wokawaras, wokawarat, wokawaramos, wokawaratis, wokawarant. Wokawaram, wokawaras, wokawarat, wokawaramos, wokawaratis, wokawarant. And then say it a third time. Wokawaram, wokawaras, wokawarat, wokawaramos, wokawaratis, wokawarant. Can you hear how the aram and the erant is obviously the slower, more important part of the word? Because that's more reality, more realistic. It's less ideal and reported and just a cloud remembered. The wokav is that cloud remembered that's so far back in time it's like vague. But the aram is, yeah, I was standing there. Erant, yeah, they were standing there having already wokaved. All right, so now you try it. Which word is this? Hopefully you got wokawarat. So what about this one? Wokawaram. And this one? Wokawarant. And I don't need to do these. You can do the rest on the PowerPoint, which is downloadable in the description of this video. But before we go on, I want to give you a little practice with switching between perfect and Plu-Perfect words. Because remember, it's a little hard because the perfect has these odd endings over there that are not common. So you need to associate these if you have the same subject doer. So wokawaram, but wokawi. And wokawaras, but wokawisti. And wokawerat, but wokawit. That's easy. And this is easy. Wokaweramus, but wokawimus. And wokaweratis, but wokawistis. And then lastly, erant and arunt. And you need to watch out for these because they are so similar that you could easily confuse them. Wokawerant, they had called, but wokawerunt, they called. So, plusquam-perfectum, wokawerunt. After they had called, they called again. And to let you know how bad this gets, look what's going to happen in chapter 30. Agarant, they had done. Agarunt, they did. And agarant, they will have done. But it's nice because the Plu-Perfect has no macron, so you can think of it as errant, way back then in time. Whereas the perfect sounds much more here and now because it has that macron on top of it. Agarunt. So, have done, had done, will have done, but you don't need to know that yet. All right, so let's go to the irregular verbs to be and to want. All right, so where on the timeline do each of these occur? You're going to have to do this, so pay attention right now. Fui, fuisti, fuit, fuimus, fuistis, fuerant. Perfect. Sum est, sunt. Present. Eram, eraserat, eramus, erant. Imperfect, right? Ero, eris, erit. Erimus, eritis, erunt. Future. Possum, potes, potest. Possumus, potestus, possunt. Well, obviously that's going to be just like sum est sunt. That's obvious, right? It's just a prefix on sum, right? Now notice whenever you have an S, the T of pot changes to pos. Okay. What about this one? Color gives it away. Imperfect. Perfect. And future. Potero. I will be able in the future. Alrighty, so then, is blanking. Was blanking. Will blank. And blanked. And then the verb to want. Woluwis wolt, wolumus woltus wolunt, present. Wolebam, wolebas, wolebat, wolebamus, wolebatus, wolebant, imperfect. Wolui, woluisti, woluit, woluimus, woluistis, woluerant, perfect. Wolam, woles, wolet, wolemus, woletus, wolent, future. Okay, and then this one, which is new, so take a look at it and tell me what tense it is. Yep, this is your verb to be in the Plu-Perfect. I had been, you had been. I had been happy. Fueram felix. Potueram. This is your Plu-Perfect. Then wolueram, wolueras, woluerat. Plu-Perfect. And lastly, note that when you have TF, like here in the perfect and Plu-Perfect, that will change into just POT. So potui and potueram, and that is up here above me. Alrighty. So now it's up to you to try it. Give it your best shot. It's all mixed up, and see if you can do that. And that's all the Plu-Perfect tense. I hope you enjoyed it. This one's about as easy as it gets, and so have at it.